Fists of Fail.
I guess I should have realized that this was eventually going to turn into a Thai film when I realized that the original name of the movie was Farang, which is the Thai equivalent of Guaylo or just foreigner.
Sure.
Or gaijin or whatever. So I did not know it was going to be a Thai film. I was expecting a full-fledged French film. And that's...
As was I.
Yeah, but it wasn't that. It doesn't really matter. What we have here is Farang.
Or mayhem! Exclamation point.
Yes. Exclamation mark.
English-speaking people.
What have you done? You woke up the beast.
English speaking is also part of the movie as well, because it's a trilingual movie, all the different languages. Doesn't ultimately affect the overall story, but it's a lot more worldly than I thought it'd be. I thought it was just gonna be like taking place in France, especially with the way the movie opens. You think it's gonna be one kind of movie, and it kind of becomes something completely different, right?
Yeah. The movie opens up with our main character, Sam, played by Nassim Lias. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. So. Mm-hmm. But he is an incarcerated individual. He's dealing with his time in prison or jail for some reason, probably gang-related. And you are led to believe there's a possibility that he can get out and have a new life for himself, getting new work and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, his past life and anything gang-related sneaks back up on him. And the movie then magically transports to the land of Thailand. So This isn't really a spoiler because it happens very, very soon in the movie. But yes, that took me by surprise because I, too, was really expecting this to take place in somewhere in France. And because at least I don't really see too many martial arts films take place in that environment.
Yeah,
that would have been interesting. But hey, Thailand, sure, why not? Haven't been there in a while.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder why they decided to film there. Not just because it's much cheaper for film production companies to film over in Thailand, but it's a completely different kind of environment. And after I noticed that we moved over to Thailand, my expectations, I wouldn't say skyrocketed, but definitely elevated because, Thailand, we're going to see some Muay Thai. We're going to see some bigger stunts. We're going to see better action. Maybe not better, but we're going to see like more elevated action because, if you've seen any things most of the things that come out of Thailand, it can be, they can be pretty spectacular. So I was like, okay, now the movie has my attention. And the things that you didn't mention are, the overall story is essentially, it's like, almost like it's almost like a revenge story, essentially. And it's really just following our main character as he's trying to accomplish, I don't know how else to really describe it without spoiling it, but yeah, like he's trying to.
I mean, you could say it's in the trailer. Yeah.
Let's say protect his family is all I'm gonna say.
Well, it's a murder revenge story because it's very obvious. It's in all the promotions and advertising.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's true.
Somebody in his family gets killed, and what happens when you kill the loved one of somebody who has martial arts ability? Well, they're gonna go after you with all sorts of punches, kicks, and in this movie, lots of stabbing and slashing.
Yes.
I'm asking for a simple favor. Get something for me and Lonnie. It's yours.
Get up. We gotta go.
I'm gonna find them. You woke up the beast.
So you and I watched this in theaters. I think it's just came out here, but apparently it came out last year in France, I guess. So I guess if we were able to get access to this, would we have turned this into a full-fledged episode? I will give my opinion on this. I'd say probably not.
Okay.
I think there's not enough going on. In fact, I think the basis of it, why I would not want to make this a full episode, would be because it's not much to talk about. And that's actually how I feel. Like, well, I wouldn't be very ecstatic about it because the movie's very slow.
Yeah.
Very slow, and there's not enough action to warrant excitement over this film.
I'll say, in my opinion, I think there's enough action, but I think there's not enough action spaced out in these slower moments, because it's fine having slower moments in the movie. I don't mind them trying to build character and build ambiance and sort of a vibe that they're going for. But at what point in this murder of revenge plot, where you have our character who is hell-bent on getting said revenge, at what point do we just have an understanding that yes, we know what his goals are? Like, can we see some action? Can we see him enact on that checklist of, oh, this person is related to harming the person I love. Well, let me now hurt them. Then let me go up the ladder of ultimately who's like the final boss, right?
Yeah.
So when we were watching this, you immediately know, like, okay, he's got to find out who is responsible. Well, he actually knows who's responsible. So it turns into him seeking out information, and that's where you can feel the movie kind of drag. It becomes like a fetch quest. Okay, I need to know, sure. I need to find out this person. Okay, let's go to this location. And instead of the person being there, he actually gets more information to go to another location and then rinse and repeat. So
sure.
I think the problem is there probably needed to be an action scene at every location stop, or something really more interesting. Like, he gets thrown in the water after they burn down his house. Okay, sure, we slow things down, understandably. We get to understand his feelings. We get to understand the characters who are going to go along with him on this journey. And then he goes to a bar in, what's the main city in Thailand? Bangkok. He goes to the bar in Bangkok, and literally he's like, can you tell me about this person? And then they tell him about the person, and then he leaves, and it's like, oh, this is where the movie is going.
Rinse and repeat.
It's just bouncing to the next location, location. Like, it needed, whenever you have these major pit stops, I personally feel like you kind of have to make it really you need to make that stop worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say that, yeah, of course, there's a lot of following our character as he's going through, like, pit stop to pit stop. But in each individual pit stop, there's one thing. It's one thing if you're going to linger on, like, let the scene breathe, right? Like, a scene might be slow. You might literally be in real time watching these characters move from point A to point B. No edits in between, all that. But I feel like that especially works best if there's something that unique about a scene. Like, maybe there's something visual that's happening, or maybe there's something was just expertly written. It's intentional. Here it feels like, man, I really feel like we can shave 20 minutes out of this movie. Maybe 10. Be a little more generous. We can shave 10 minutes out of the movie just to get rid of all those nagging moments of, like, oh my god, we're watching this bartender walk around the counter to the other side to grab a photo to hand off to the main character. Like, and again, it's the writing's it's nothing special. So, like, there's a lot of moments throughout the whole movie where it's like, it just drags. And I just wanted it to be a little bit more snappy. It's an action movie.
It could have been a little snappier once we understand the motivation, which is revenge, right? Yes. Once his family gets murdered and he survives the ordeal, you need to torpedo the story now into, okay, we know what the goal is. Kill the people who offended you. And it's still taking its time. Like, I understand you wanting to take your time with him reveling in the idea that his people he loved were hurt, but we got so much time spent with them together. You build it up, you build these connections, so you kind of care when they get hurt. But then, I don't know, like, I don't care about the aftermath stuff. The aftermath stuff should be revenge, it should be action, and it could be snappier. I think you're being a little nitpicky with that one scene when we're just watching him walk around. But yeah, at the same time, it takes forever. With some of those moments.
That's just one example. There's plenty more. That was probably the most egregious example that's really stuck out in my head. But there's a lot of moments where, say for example, another one where he goes into a club. It's very uncomfortable. I won't give away what happens in it. It's very uncomfortable, but you expect there to be a massive action scene that erupts from it, and nothing really happens. It's like you said, like it's just him being fed more information for him to move on to the next scene.
I think we can kind of talk about that scene. It's necessary because he has a goal, right? He's looking for his daughter. He wants revenge. He's looking for his daughter, and you understand what's at stake because he goes to a bar, and unfortunately, because we're in Southeast Asia, we're in Thailand. You realize that child prostitution is a thing, and when he sees what he's dealing with, you understand a possible outcome for his daughter. So I think that scene, while it's uncomfortable, I think that raises the stakes.
Sure. Yeah.
But like you said, we needed a big action moment there to kind of help bring things up a bit. And the guy gets smashed in the head with a cue ball. It's a nice exclamation point, but there's nothing to build into that.
Locked in and I'm lethal.
It's the moments like that. It's like they built this tension and they don't alleviate that tension, and that's how I felt in scenes like that. Or other times there'd just be longer periods of lulls, and it just keeps on asking the audience, like, okay, just wait, just be patient. It's gonna amount to something, and then it doesn't get there until very late into the movie. And not to say there's no action movie. There is. I'd say that was Nassim Lias, who apparently is a former kickboxer, MMA fighter on some circuit. I don't know. I don't know anything about him. Apparently, he's only done French stuff. He does a phenomenal job with the action. Okay, maybe not phenomenal, but he does a decent job with the action. I think the action direction movie is good. It's not spectacular, but it's good, from my recollection.
So this is directed by Xavier Gens and action directed by Jude Poyer. They have worked on Gangs of London, that is Gareth Evans' TV show. And I think if you like Gareth Evans' action style that he made famous for with The Raid and The Raid 2, they do a good job at translating what he did in that with those movies, and then probably what he wanted with Gangs of London. And that's what you're getting here. It feels like The Raid action, where you have the brutal hits topped off with some sort of bloody exclamation point at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're obviously gonna hear a lot of parallels between this movie and The Raid, but it definitely doesn't reach those high marks as much as The Raid did. And it's not like it has to be exactly like The Raid, but I felt like the action was okay at times. It felt a little bit too shaky at certain moments, from my recollection again. And it just wasn't entirely to my liking. But I'd say that was for the most part until we get to the end. By the end of the movie, everything becomes highly elevated, for sure. Like the action gets really intense towards the end, and I was expecting it to just ride that high, and then all of a sudden the movie's over. I was not expecting it to have just ended like that.
Sure. I liked the final fight. We have a final fight in an elevator between our main character and I think it's like 3 other individuals. I think the direction there is great. It's bloody, it's fun, it's very inventive. I like that it's funny, despite the fact that it's gory. I like that Jude Poirier
over the top.
Figured a way to make it over the top and feel painful and almost cringy because of what he's doing with the gore, but you laugh at it as well. So it's similar to the Mortal Kombat fatalities, where if that's so realistic, you're going to pull back because that's very gruesome, but they go a little bit over the top to where it becomes entertaining and funny. And what they did with it, I don't want to spoil it because I think it is pretty unique what they did in the last fight. I think it's fun, and I like that last fight a lot. But then prior to that, we have what almost every martial arts movie demands now is a hallway fight. And nothing new there, really, unfortunately. I think ever since Gareth Edwards and then he and Iko's team from the Raid, ever since they started doing the arcing camera motions to follow hits, I feel a lot of people in the industry copy that, and that's still apparent here. Hey, let's have the camera flip when the character flips. Hey, let's have the camera arc and follow the movement of a fist or a leg or a swipe. And I'm not like the biggest fan of that. I think Gareth Edwards did it best, and I think camera operators now they do it too quickly. They don't capture the motion so that you can see it. You understand it because, well, the screen is flipping and then the man is flipping. You get the idea, but it's not as visually nice as I would like it.
Sure. So it's like a perfection. There's a level of perfection that isn't quite there yet, right? I get that. But I will say that as much as I didn't think too much of the hallway fight, there wasn't anything spectacular there that stood out for me. I think with the exception of the cinematography, maybe I like some of the edits in terms of like showing different angles of the action, because as much as I love the idea of hallway fights in concept and in terms of like execution and everything, like at this point in time we have so many hallway fights. Like there's too many to name. It's you're always gonna go back to Old Boy. It's like an example, right? Like that. What made that unique? Well, it's a winner, and it's shot in this particular like profile view, right? So here it's like it's another hallway fight. Wondering what really makes it stand out. It's like, okay, well at least they try different camera angles, and it's not a narrow hallway, so there's enough room for the camera operator to kind of weave his way through and figure out like the best way to shoot the action. But overall, like I don't think the action itself, the choreography was anything spectacular. Yeah. In fact, I feel like it really doesn't really hit those high notes until we get to that elevator fight, which is really late into the movie, and then suddenly the movie's wrapping up.
I don't mind the movie wrapping up at the very end. He achieved his goal.
Yeah. What
else are you going to do? Well, actually, there is kind of some prologue stuff. He does meet with the person he wants to get with revenge on. They have some sort of conversation, and there's an outcome from that. And then you get an aftermath from that. So it doesn't hard cut. It's not like another movie we saw recently that does that.
I wonder what you're referring to, Zero. Yeah. That episode will come out soon too. I wonder what the buzz is on that movie. But no, I don't. It's not that I wanted more movie. Thank I'm really not saying that. I don't want more movie after that scene. I was expecting the action to.
I thought there would be more
past that. Exactly, that's what I meant.
Yeah. After the final elevator fight, I really thought maybe there would be one more boss, like a big boss, and unfortunately, that's it. Which is a shame because the elevator fight really elevated things finally with the action. I felt excited, and then unfortunately, that's it.
It just ends, yeah. And you know what? You mentioned the gore, and that's all the parallels that we're gonna get for compared to the Raid. I felt like the gore overall was pretty leveled off, pretty tame, and then towards the end, and that's when we get to the elevator fight. Like suddenly we get like gore, like akin to the Raid or Raid 2, whatever. And it's like, wait, where did this come from? Like, because I felt like the rest of the movie was kind of. I mean, not. It's not really a complaint. It's just, it like that's why I thought like, oh, we're finally seeing it like in full blast. I'm expecting more now.
Yeah.
And then there's no more action, and it's like, oh, that's the end of the movie. I guess that's their way of trying to end the movie on a high note. But it's like, but I want to see more of this.
True. I'll say so. I mean, we were speaking about it before, but hallway fights. The movie has 2 hallway fights actually. There's a hallway fight. Even before this, when he goes to the mansion and he's still, getting information. That's actually, I actually prefer that hallway fight to the one closer to the end. There's a great moment. What's the term? Chekhov's gun. There's a great Chekhov's cabinet moment. You get a beautiful setup with a cabinet, and you're like, oh, this is an interesting shot. Why are we shooting the cabinet from this angle? Oh, stuntman! Boom! Perfect. That's how you do it. I mean, foreshadowing is a thing that they did properly in this fight scene. So
sure.
Hats off to them.
Yeah. I'd say that in terms of the main character, pretty standard action hero. Just seeking revenge. He's all about family. Vin Diesel will be proud. But I think I didn't mention the believability of his ability was kind of inconsistent for me. At the beginning, he was struggling just to take on one dude, and suddenly he's like a killing machine.
I told you this. He gets jumped in the beginning of the movie. He can't take that guy out. Yes, he does.
No, he does get jumped. No, I believe you. But then he gets severely injured later in the movie, and he triumphs over everybody, like multiple folks. And then here, I just did not believe that. But that's actually a lot more on the nitpicky side. I'd say the action overall is still fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
I want to call out a really awesome stunt though in the beginning. We don't have clips, unfortunately, but there's I don't remember. He kicks that guy off the. Oh yeah. I guess they're pretty high up at this construction site, and the camera just kind of doesn't follow him, but it peeks over, and you just see him fall to the ground. Probably on wires, most likely on wires.
Definitely on wires.
Looks beautiful because it doesn't look like he's on wires.
Yeah,
that's why it's so nicely done.
The speed that he's moving at. I mean, if it was actually in slow mo.
Maybe that's how they hit it. Yeah.
It wasn't. Yes, but I mean, like, still, even with slow mo, things can look like people are floating, and they were able to accomplish it. Make the performer move at a certain speed where it didn't look like that. So it's good. It's good. And after that, it takes a while for the action to build up, but it's all set up. And then when the action finally kicks in, it's fine. Yeah, but I would still say overall this was I'd recommend it. It's slow. It's slow, but like if you can look past it, I think you'd still enjoy the film. It's not a high recommend. I think it's definitely watchable. Mm-hmm. But yeah,
I actually wish they gave the actor Nassim. I wish they gave him more lines. He doesn't really say too much. And yeah, I get it. You have the brooding, depressed, angry, inner turmoil revenge character. Yes, we've seen it done before. Yeah. And a lot of that can hinge on a performance, because when you see other revenge people, they don't talk, they grunt, and that's it. That's how you know they're in revenge mode. I feel that this guy was good at emoting with his eyes and with his face. Like, you can see disgust when he went to that bar. You can tell he was very distraught after everything that happened.
Yeah.
I think if they gave him a little more lines, I could have attached onto him maybe a little more, because I liked everything that happened in the beginning of the movie with him dealing with his incarceration. I thought that was handled really nicely, and I almost wish the movie stayed with that, because that was much more interesting. Him having to deal with the fact that this former gang is still pestering him. He doesn't want to get involved because he wants to get his life back. That stuff was so much more meatier to me, actually. Sure. But unfortunately, this is just what it is. Once we go to Thailand, it does slow down, and I don't know for me if this would be a recommend. It was nice to watch.
Okay.
I think a lot of people like this, but ultimately for me, it was just okay.
Yeah. I think that we're just maybe a point or two off, but like we're basically coming to the same conclusion, which is like it's just okay. I'd recommend it just because I still commend people for making martial arts movies in this day and age. And it's not great, but it's a valiant effort. It's, I kind of wanted it to be better, but it's passable. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like a mediocre recommendation from me.
You guys don't realize what you got yourselves into. This will not bring your family back, Sam. You woke up the beast.
You know what? It's kind of good this came out in the beginning of the year, because I want to kind of get 2023 out of my head. I mean, this technically came out in 2023, but this is a good start for 2024 now, a good start for martial arts in the new year. Not bad, but I'm hopefully expecting more things to come out that will probably... I'm not expecting. More things will probably come out that will probably make me forget about this. But we'll see. Maybe we're going to have a shitty new year. Maybe this is going to end up on our best of list because just absolutely garbage just comes out. And we have nothing to talk about.
We're like, hey guys, remember Mayhem? That was like the only movie we liked. This podcast is going to shit.